Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
What is going on?
Oh, just out here on a Tuesday.
It's nice. I kind of like it.
The rain?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You do love a good rain.
I do. I love it. I like this time of year. I like the fact that the Bengals are in 3. I like the fact that the Commanders look good.
That's true. Your Bengals were your regression candidate, right?
And the Commanders are my surprise team.
That's right.
Yeah,
Daniels looked good yesterday.
Let's not act like I didn't say these things.
You did say these things.
So I'm happy about that.
I will say real quick on the Commanders, I was concerned about the amount that Jaden Daniels ran week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
And that looked way better last night. If he can play like that.
I don't think he's going to go 21 to 23.
No. But I mean, if he can throw the ball effectively, right? As opposed to, he seemed much more willing to stand in there and not take off and run.
Stand and deliver.
That's a different thing.
I don't even know.
Although he did stand and deliver, especially that ball to Terry McLaurin. Woo!
Yeah, he did.
That was a dime.
Stand and
deliver.
He got. Did you see Stand and Deliver with Edward J. Olmos?
No.
Do you like him as an actor?
He's in a couple things I like.
But you're just not going to answer the question, or do you like him as an actor?
I probably haven't seen him enough to have a definitive statement.
So that's really the answer?
Yeah, it really is. Because there's something haven't you ever had an actor?
Well, listen, the only reason I asked for double down is because I want clarity. Because after yesterday, man, we're going to read into.
You know me.
We're going to read into every little thing about press conferences.
I'm not great with clarity. I like to live in the nuance.
What's wrong with clarity? He's a really good player for the Commanders.
I think that's never mind.
It's not McClarity.
Oh, McClarity.
Is that what it is?
McLaren?
Yeah.
No, not. It's a little different. just a tad.
Would you like some of my chi?
No, I'm okay. You know what I'm actually mad about?
Should we work on our chi?
By the way, wasn't Edward in Miami Vice?
Yes, he was.
Yes,
he was
him a lot.
He was the chief.
He does a guest kind of arc on The West Wing. I'm a big West Wing guy,
and he had kind of the cool voice.
Yeah, he does have a very cool voice.
He'd have one of those one-liner declarative kind of things like Crockett.
He played a Supreme Court justice on West Wing.
I'm going to need you to play this by the book, Tubbs
and Crockett.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how he would talk.
I didn't really watch the old Miami Vice. I did watch the terrible movie.
How did you not watch the old Miami Vice?
It was a little before my time.
Well, my mom would let me stay up sometimes. She and I would watch it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Me and my mom used to watch MASH together.
Yeah, that was never in my wheelhouse. Not at no point.
I don't know why. It was just she really liked MASH. We'd watch MASH.
I never got into any of that.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It wasn't bad.
Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have that kind of humor.
Maybe. I don't know if I'd find it funny now.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, maybe.
My voice is so raggedy. I'm so hopped up on B12. Well,
maybe.
It sounds better than it did yesterday. Did you get a little sleep last night?
No.
Okay. You seem like you're more well rested, so that's a positive. Even if you're not, I guess.
No.
You're just faking it better today?
Yeah. 100%.
I'm faking it worse today, for sure.
I sent Aaron Degenerate. I sent him a TikTok because I was kind of vibing with what it said.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think he vibes. Sometimes you just got to fake it, man, and get by.
Oh, yeah.
And hope that everything's going to be all right.
I feel you.
Everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I'm out here faking it all the time.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
But so what else am I happy about aside from the rain and the Bengals and
you like
the
Creighton's Clearwater Revival? Have you ever seen The Rain?
CCR. I know that song. Hum it for me.
Have you ever seen The Rain?
That's an okay song.
Coming down.
A lot of times that's in like old movies and they'll be going someplace.
Like a montage scene.
And they'll like play that under the scene.
Yeah. I like a little CCR.
It's fine.
Me and my mom used to listen to CCR, so.
Okay.
Oh, how are the older guys going to take it?
Apparently not well, according to Coach Rhule.
Oh, man. Want to get into that already?
No, I thought you were asking me how my morning was going.
How was your night/morning?
It's fine.
You stealing shirts from your offensive line coach again?
Yes. This is Coach Williams. They all have a theme, right?
Yeah, they're triple X's.
They're huge.
And then they're look like you look. It's a little big on you.
That's fine.
That's good. I know you like the baggy fit.
Except for like my dress clothes, but yeah, I do. I'm comfortable. In case it gets cold, I can put my knees in my.
You can kind of bundle up.
Would you make fun of me if I sat across from or sat next to you like that?
No, I mean when we were out at Indian Hills,
Indian Creek.
Indian Hills was the movie theater, right?
Yes.
I always get those confused. It's like Vincent and Ernie
right
Shavers.
next to the.
I have a hard time with them.
Native American point tip. What?
We were out at Indian Creek, and you had the blanket
Yes.
all bundled up. I mean,
Should I get down?
if I can stay focused when that's going on, I can definitely handle the knees in the shirt. It's no big deal.
That's cool.
Just
Why
like-
are you on me about my triple X when
I'm not.
when you got a throw rug on?
I like it. It's nice. Actually, I was so cold this morning, and not because of the weather. So this is a weird.
You're weird.
I'm aware.
Would you like some cheese?
Yeah, let's give it a try.
No,
No, I just want to taste it.
I'm not sharing.
Why
Go ahead.
not?
That's fine.
You asked me.
I don't
You
drink
okay if
out
I
of
drink
can.
out of it? You're
I
okay?
ain't drinking out of it
All right.
after that. That's yours. You do what you want to do.
That's not bad.
Are you a spark? No, you can't give it back.
There you go. There you go.
No, you're pot committed, bro. Okay. All right.
You're not gonna like catch the beaties or anything, man. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I can't catch that, can I?
No, you cannot catch that.
Do you like the fact that's a different kind of orange?
Yeah, it'd be. I mean, so if it was cold, I probably would like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go get some ice. There's plenty of it in here.
Well, we'll figure it out later.
Since everybody else is in a chilly kind of whiny mood. Oh, we need to just go all in. I'm telling you, we need to have a watch party.
Mhm.
So, and there's two things. This is what I would do if I was like Steven Spielberg or Francis Ford.
Coppola.
I was gonna say capitulate.
Different thing.
Him too.
You know he's Nicolas Cage's uncle?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure.
Well, the only reason I really know is because, of course, it was TikTok that told me about strained father-daughter relationships in Hollywood.
Mhm.
Because Talia Shire was in there somewhere, and somebody else, and who's the Voight daughter?
Oh, I don't know.
They're in that thing.
They're strained.
Is it
Angelina.
Jolie?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
Angelina Jolie.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, it's like top 5. That was just like 3 days ago. My memory is impeccable. So what I would do is I would splice Inside Out too,
Mhm.
and I would do cut-ups from Illinois. Could I make a movie? No, seriously. Come on, man. HBO.
Help brother out.
Yes. And then it'll be Showtime.
No, it's funny because I think
we
it'd
need
be appropriate.
we need Inside Out 2. And what do they say on like TikTok when they say Stitch incoming?
Yeah.
Okay, so Stitch incoming, insert play. Like guys actually getting double teamed, or
like Ty Robinson, for example.
or Nash Hutmaker. So then we don't have to say things like,
They got dominated.
yeah, like, yeah.
So let me.
I promised myself for almost 24 hours,
Mhm.
I'm not going to go in on when I don't feel people know what they're talking about. I'm not going to.
So let me give the.
I want to finish my
my
movie.
bad. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your movie.
So in my movie, if you haven't seen Inside Out 2, do yourselves a solid. Go watch it.
Which I haven't.
The theme won't be her going to college to play hockey.
Mhm.
It will be Nebraska's football team going to school to play football.
Mhm.
And I think if it would have to be local.
Sure.
Would it be an indie film? Like, what are the kind of films that are only kind of like regional?
Like a limited release.
Can you explain that? Like, is it only to people around here?
Well, limited release is where you don't release it nationwide and you only like select theaters.
You're just not going to directly answer my questions, are you? So
It
that's
could-
a yes, right?
It could
That
be
is
an
a
indie.
yes.
Okay. Well,
It
I
could
don't
be an
need the. Again, we can't handle the fancy stuff that go with thought processes. We clearly cannot handle
I
that.
just like to give context.
Well, you know.
You know,
So that's what the
not
movie,
that people listen to context. When I give it anyway, but
that would be what the movie's about.
emotionally handling Nebraska playing football.
Yeah, like we're still not capable, and I'm with you because about 2 weeks ago you said, "Well, I just don't think we're used to a coach talking to us like that.
Yeah.
And we clearly are.
Being honest.
We clearly are.
And pretty forthcoming.
Because we were towing the bridge yesterday. We were taking elevators to the top roof.
Oh yeah.
Like it was.
We were in the danger zone.
And I'm like, I almost wanted to just call him and be like, why would you do that? But I didn't feel like getting hung up on.
It's a fun challenge.
Also,
And he wouldn't have answered because they had practice again last night.
I
But
feel like
a penguin.
he knows. I feel like a penguin.
Sipple said that once, and I don't even know what he was talking
Like the
about.
context.
He's like, I feel like a penguin. I don't know if
Maybe
he was telling us
cold.
he was cold.
He was
I
cold.
feel like a penguin.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe he was
How do you still have that?
sitting on some pebbles.
Yeah, I talked to him on Saturday. He won't publicly say it out loud, but he told me he really loves our show.
Oh well, I mean,
So I'm glad you get out and
I appreciate
you get done
that.
with your deal and you see what I
We
have
should
to
have
s-
Monaghan sometime. I like talking
what
to
we
Sip.
want to say. Yeah, Shane. Oh, there's two people. So Nate texted this morning. Apparently Nate Gary's up early. He said, is it this Tuesday or next Tuesday? So apparently we dropped the ball on that.
Apparently it's next Tuesday.
Well,
Well,
the
the
team,
radiothon's on Thursday though.
yeah.
Can
So
we do Nate tomorrow? Can we figure that out?
yeah. How about him?
We need him before Thursday. That's all.
Listen.
Let's get that done.
I'm gonna give as the self-proclaimed. So I told you what he said when he first texted, right?
Mm-mm.
He's like, DB, this is Snake. Like we totally went code. He said, we doing today or next Tuesday? Sorry, Snake. Shane, I'll send you his number. We'll get him for tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll get done.
Okay.
He
Talk
said,
to our guy, Nate
he said, I don't do that media blankety blank 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 blank. So you better blankety blank blank. Keep it real, light, blah blah blah. And I was like, is he threatening me, or is he just kind of setting the stage? I feel he's setting the stage.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he doesn't do social media and he does not love media in general. So I promised him.
We'll keep it 100.
Yeah, I didn't say what you just said.
Well, you spent a lot of time with kids. I thought you might try and keep it 100.
Okay. I used to work with a guy in my former life that couldn't say that either. So how about you guys stop trying? Because he
guys.
sucked too.
Who's you guys?
People other than people that are accustomed to using it. Let's keep it 100.
Like young kids?
Sure.
Keep it 100.
But anyway, back to this movie. Do you think it would sell?
I think it would be very good. I don't think it would sell.
Do you think people would think I'm making light of the situation? Because I wouldn't be. I would
No.
be being completely honest.
I think people aren't willing to acknowledge, because it's the same thing. Again, I talk about everyone should go to therapy. It's the same thing. Most people don't go to therapy because they're not willing to acknowledge they need help.
Oh.
That's the first part, right? Is, hey, we need help with
the
this.
star of this movie would be anxiety,
For sure.
because we have a lot of it.
Yeah, and it
so-
comes from the baggage I talked about yesterday.
It's incredible.
Past trauma causes future anxiety.
But I will say this.
Yeah.
I will say that he so much as said there is some stress disorder
Well,
going
and there's
on.
some truth to what we sort of feel happening, right? He talked about
Which is what, Ravi?
that. I think
Can I call you RAL?
I don't care.
Okay, RAL.
Um,
We need a nickname. L2, L3. You got a lot, but Ravi,
I mean, you can decide whatever you want.
I gotta figure it out.
I don't love Ravi, if I'm being honest.
No,
Like if I had to pick one, then I was like,
that one's out.
not my fave.
Okay, all right.
It gives me
There is-
flashbacks to
there is-
elementary school when people actually couldn't pronounce my name.
Yeah, like when somebody called me Damien.
Yeah.
666,
Is Ravi Lulla here? Guys, it's not.
like when you got sleepy at night, sing you a lulla.
Yeah, like
Well, that's like you children that say nuggies and tendies and all that weird
no,
stuff.
that's different. That's an abbreviation. It'd be like if I said Nagats or something. I don't know. Like you're just pronouncing it wrong. Or Nougats. Can I get some Chican Nougats? That's what that would be like.
Nah. So that's the idea for my movie.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Weekend release. No, we probably better watch it before Saturday.
I think people would need to admit that they need that kind of help.
Do you remember before the season started, somebody or you or that, not that you're just any old body, like some other people or you, my co-hosts, asked me what I was most interested in this season if Nebraska wasn't going to accomplish their goals.
Mhm.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Shane, you probably do not. What did
No.
do you remember what I told you, what I was interested in seeing play out real time?
I don't remember the exact word. Like, I don't remember how you phrased it, but it was to do with, if I'm remembering the right conversation, how the older guys would deal with new situations, basically.
Correct.
And I don't remember how you phrased it, but it was something that was the gist of it.
I said, I'll be watching the veterans
Mhm.
when situations present themselves that have a lot of pressure placed on them that haven't been
Where they failed in the past.
where they have not gotten it done.
Yeah.
I was very specific about a handful of guys. Do you remember who those guys were?
I believe so. I'm going to extrapolate here a little bit. I believe you were talking about Ty and Nash
I gave you 5.
because you brought up how you thought Van Poppel might end up taking some of their snaps by the end of the year. So I'm going to throw Ty and Nash in there.
That's a really good memory.
Sometimes.
That is fantastic because I did talk about Van Poppel. I said it wouldn't even surprise me if.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I believe you threw GIF in there.
Correct.
I believe you threw Deshaun in there.
Very good.
And
who's the last one?
I'm not sure if I'm right on this one because everybody has been very high on him. I think it was Tommy Hill.
That is correct. Right? Older guys, a lot is going to be thrust on them being veterans. I want to see, and I was specific about why. I said, Tommy Hill, never really been an elite level defender. He's going to be the number one. There is no Quentin Newsom. Isaac Gifford's got to lead some guys. He's in this discussion of the best safeties in the conference. How will he evolve in coming back with a target? Deshaun Singleton, Sunday talent that has yet to put it all together,
and didn't play very much last year,
and hasn't played a ton.
Yeah.
And then I said with Nash and Ty, did Ty come back because of what?
Right.
Didn't like the grade, wanted to win championships. And I said, Nash is kind of this new phenom that's going to have to get used to
the expectations
of yeah. So the only reason I say all that is because what they're going through is perfectly normal.
100%.
So we don't have to.
It's a totally different thing to be.
And I'm not explaining away what Coach Rhule said yesterday. I'm telling you why he said it. He said it because it is a very, very, very real thing.
Right.
And those guys, it's not like if he doesn't say it out loud.
He said it to them already.
They don't know that it's a thing.
I guarantee you he has said
right?
it.
Like they know that that's a thing.
I guarantee you he has said it to their face in almost those exact words already.
So you know what we shouldn't do? Number one, we shouldn't panic.
No.
Like, don't panic. Don't panic.
He's done this before.
Number two, don't concede the rest of this season by saying, man, I can't wait to get these old guys out of here, because you're going to need them when it counts.
Yes.
You're absolutely going to need them. And you have to take this thing head on. You can't circumvent what the issues are.
What's one of the things we like so much about Coach Rhule?
Well, he says the quiet part out loud.
He says the quiet part out loud. What did he do yesterday?
Oh, he definitely said
he said the quiet part out loud.
And we didn't know really what to do with it because
nobody said that part out loud before.
Yeah, because I got some of this yesterday. Well, how do you feel the older guy's going to feel like him singling out?
They already know
Raiola like he played well. I said, I'm not. The point of him saying that wasn't saying that Raiola played well, because that's not really what he meant. What he was saying, what he said was, he's out here having fun handling the situation.
Raiola played loose.
Yeah,
there's a difference,
right? Like
He would rather, I think,
We
correct me if I'm wrong.
totally read that he singled out that he was the guy. That's not what he said.
No, he said he didn't play tight.
He's out here having fun.
Yeah.
Right?
He's out there trying to win. He's not out there trying not to lose.
So
that's what he said.
do you think they don't know that?
100% they know that.
Does that mean that he doesn't have to take better care of the ball in the pocket?
Can I rewind back to Chasing 3 over the summer where he goes, hey, this is why we lose when there's people in the stands? You don't think he was talking about the same thing then?
Oh, I know.
You don't think he's been talking about the same thing since spring? You don't think he's been talking about the same thing since last year? This isn't new. It's just the first time he said it to us.
I'm telling you, fine folks out there, don't panic. The sky is not falling. They know what they have to do. Now, whether they do it or not is something completely different. But I don't want people to go to like be that character and Inside Out too, and start going through all these processes without just worrying about going to West Lafayette first, because we will be being equally as guilty as what he wants them to do. And it's games like this in West Lafayette where you're going it, as we like to say, proof of concept. Go to work on, they say yesterday morning, take accountability, dust yourself off. No, you have to play better. Just start there. Do your 1 of 11. Right? He walked through all these scenarios. It's not like I talked to him, but if you coach, you can see what happened, right? Hey, guy got confused. I said bad eyes. Hey, guys got rubbed on the pick route. Hey, make sure you don't try to do anybody else's job. Don't play hero ball, right? Hey, you get a trigger or a read, fire. Right? Like all those things he kind of walked through yesterday.
That's playing fast and loose, right?
So the things that
instead of overthinking.
There's a lot, man. They got a chance to be okay. The good thing is it's up to them.
I've got a question for you when we get back, kind of on that same line. We'll be back more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. I know a bunch of you driving to work right now. Maybe you're trying to eat your breakfast. Maybe you're trying to send an email. Maybe you're trying to put your makeup on. But when you're driving, it's your full-time job. Phones, food, friends need your attention when you're not driving. Stop the distractions. Just drive. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
We need my man Trooper Brett.
Seems like there might. Yeah, he's on your calls, right?
Yeah, I like him. It's such a low key cool job.
I will say he could have helped me out a couple weeks ago. Let me know that there was a crash on 27th. That would have been cool.
No, I'll hit him up.
Just let just like,
he does do a nice job at that.
Hey, thank you for listening, Shane.
Just like, hey man,
thank you for listening.
Could have used a heads up there. It's no big deal.
We should have talked to my man Benny Mack this morning. We got so many people to talk to. How are we going to parse through this show, Ravi?
We got a lot of people to talk to.
Oh, well, okay.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about too.
Do we? Well, where did we leave off when you said I have a question for you?
I do.
What ridiculous question will you ask your boy this morning?
It's hard to say.
All right.
I don't know if it's ridiculous or not. It might be a good question. Sometimes I have those.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to do me a solid.
Yeah.
Don't take advice from anyone you wouldn't trade places with.
Interesting.
No, I'm just playing.
Actually,
I'm not.
I'm just serious. No, I've got
There's so much in that.
I've got a question for you.
What do you want?
To ask you a question.
That's a great question.
I guarantee you it won't be a great question.
It might be. You don't know yet.
I'm going to go out on a limber.
I'm going to call it 70-30 maybe.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you which side's which. Here's my question.
Yes.
Coach Rhule talked a lot about players being tight. Talked about how Illinois came in passionate and prepared and determined to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I know winning is something you have to learn. It's a learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Losing is too, though.
Mm-hmm.
The older guys in Nebraska have lost a lot.
Yeah, they definitely know how to lose.
Is there a point, if you're Coach Rhule, where you have to say, hey, I'm putting you in positions to be successful. You're falling back into bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go with someone that hasn't learned either yet.
So maybe.
Is that a fair question?
That's it's not a good question, but it's a fair question. No, it's actually a good question. I
Because
just didn't want to say that out loud. You can't. So you're not. So
I'm not saying
we're not. We're not gonna be like the sentiment yesterday. We're not tanking the season. We're
No.
not giving up on the season.
I'm talking about guys that might give you a better chance to win.
But I do think, well, he kind of intimated it.
Yeah.
Right. Without. He said so.
He talked about it with Riley. He talked about it with McGahee.
I talked with our staff.
Mm-hmm.
I challenged him. Maybe we got to take a look at some young guys.
Mm-hmm.
So the balance of that is, it's what all coaches want. We just talk about it a ton. You always want options.
Mm-hmm. Coach yourself into options.
I don't want to have to be married to playing a guy if I don't like the way that he's playing.
Yeah. Or even if he plays well most of the time, you don't like how he tightens up in situations.
Do you think there's something to recruiting winners?
I do. I actually remember, so there was when Randy Shannon got hired at Miami, and obviously that didn't go well, right? It wasn't a successful tenure.
Was Randy Shannon a good recruiter?
He was a really good recruiter.
He's a really good recruiter.
But one of the things he did his first couple years is he only recruited guys that won state championships.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing that he went out, and if you hadn't won a state championship, he wasn't recruiting you. And obviously it didn't work out for him at Miami, but I always thought that was a super interesting philosophy because
Frost tried it a couple years in, remember?
A couple years in, yeah. I do think it's an interesting way to go about things because there is something to recruiting winners. What was one of the knocks on Adrian Martinez when he came in?
He never won anything.
High school, college.
I actually remember having a couple of segments about that post the loss.
Mm-hmm.
Not post. Like I'm supposed to do. I meant post.
Yeah, like Malone.
A loss.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Christopherson style. He got away with cutting across the defender's face.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to let somebody do that to you.
Maybe because it was Dallas.
Yeah, maybe.
Squirrel. Where I talked about that.
Yeah.
Now, so the only reason I'm passionate about this topic is because we're going through it right now at the high school level. There are a lot of guys that are ready and wanting to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't been the guy before. You've watched a lot of other guys do it.
Yep.
So there is an evolution into the ownership of it, the being responsible for the outcome of it, the preparation of it, and to deal with somebody talking to you on every day on the regular. Some people just aren't built for that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, which is why sometimes you'll see people self-sabotage.
100%.
Oh, man, you mean, fudge, I showed you this 3 weeks in a row, so now I got to do this all the time. There are just some people like they just can't function like that.
You know what it is too.
So go ahead.
It's not that they don't want to, they're afraid that they can't.
So
they're afraid that they're not good enough. Usually, if you're self-sabotaging like that, and I agree, if you're doing that,
sometimes it's not even intentional.
No. It's almost always subconscious, right? But a lot of times there's an insecure, like a deep-rooted insecurity there that they don't know if they can.
So I think what you heard yesterday partly was what we talked about in the first 25 minutes. But the other part is it's always hard for coaches, it's just my opinion, to verbalize the degree of difficulty or what's going on, the crux of the context or the consequences when it's not physical.
Yeah.
So to explain that to us without it being a physical thing that we can see sounds kind of gloomy.
Do you remember why?
It's like he's like describing this abstract concept where we he made us want to throw in the towel but that's not what that is not the message.
Because when we can't understand something, it overwhelms us and we panic.
So like he's not
telling you it's not fixable. He's not telling you that these guys aren't going to learn or that if they don't learn, there's not other options. What he's telling you is this is the current problem that we're working on.
So not to go all biblical, but there's a lot of what he says that's grounded in and in a spiritual realm, like almost like he's reading from the Gospels, right? Like I say, hey, don't seek counsel from the west less wise, right? That's biblical. He'll say, don't take advice from anybody you don't want to trade places with. He might say, I would say, hey, listen, in order to really flourish, you have to kind of die to self. Like you have to give up, because you can't feed two masters, right? You can't feed the flesh and grow spiritually, right? So what he's saying without saying it is, you have to die to your old self. Give in to this new way of doing things. This is bountiful. It is fruitful. This is edifying over here. Do this way, i.e., you do winning things. You do winning things. You can be a winner. You have to cut this part out, though. Like you cannot resort back or revert back to this. You need to stay right here. Die to self. Give in to this over here. This is what we train for. This is what we train for. Only feed this part. Only feed this part. Only feed this part. Like, see, people don't really like. That's not fun and high-fivey and. But that's what he's saying.
So here's the $1 million question, not just with football players, but with people too, because I know you've seen this. Is that obviously seems better? We know what we've done hasn't worked. Why are people still drawn back?
Because
it's the thing that hasn't worked.
Because it's easiest to do it your way. So you need to be around this more. You asked me the question about giving up on old guys versus new guys. You have to allow it to play out. You can't take the season, because some of those guys are your really, really good physical players. But is this a physical issue?
Doesn't seem like it so far.
No, we'll see.
Maybe.
We'll see.
At some point.
That's why he said chicken or egg.
Coming up next, we got Mike Gross covering Penn State for the Lancaster Online. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Mike Gross of Lancaster Online. Mike, how are you this morning?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Well, I'll tell you after this weekend, because we will hit full-fledged panic if you guys curb stomp Illinois, right? We want to feel good about ourselves. So give us till this weekend.
Overdoing the transitive property.
And I can't stand it. So that's why I say it sarcastically, because I guarantee you, and one of the reasons that we wanted to talk Penn State this week, and because we do this many Big Ten whip, and so we kind of get a landscape of what's going on around the conferences. You guys are one of the few teams so far that is, and I get the whole Bowling Green thing, but kind of it's going according to script, right? The way that you play, the style. One of the few teams, I think, a handful that are kind of playing their way into what people were saying in the preseason. Is that kind of the feel at Happy Valley? Because I get it. You still need the big two to get over that hump, but it's going according to script thus far.
I would say that's an accurate description, except for the first half of Bowling Green.
Yeah,
I think everybody was surprised at how successful Bowling Green was with the simple game plan against Penn State defense, which I thought was dominant at West Virginia against a pretty good West Virginia offense. What Bowling Green was able to do with them with very quick drop, get rid of it quick, type passing game with a veteran quarterback, caught 286 yards of offense and a half. I think that was the shock to everybody. Now, Bowling Green went down to Texas A&M last week and kind of did the same thing with them. I think Bowling Green is a good, team for that, a very good team for that level. But other than that, I think you're on the money. Yeah, I think things have gone. They've progressed in areas where people needed to see some progress, and yeah, it's gone well.
Mike, I'm curious about Drew Aller. That's a guy that I know, despite the gaudy numbers last year on the touchdown to interception ratio, people weren't totally sold on him. He's increased that completion percentage by over 10 points so far. And maybe more importantly, that average yards per completion is almost doubled for him as well. Is that something you've seen a change in him, or are you looking this as more opponent specific and we'll know more when we get into some tougher competition?
Well, I think both of those things are to an extent true, but I absolutely think he's made some progress. I think he's made a lot of throws this year down the field, stretch the defense throws that last year, while there was no question that he had the physical ability to make those throws. I mean, his arm talent is crazy. He did not have the confidence and the sort of understanding of how to read and just the sort of gunslinger kind of mentality to make those throws. Now he has that. I think there's a different level in his demeanor. There's a different level of his understanding of his job and just a confidence level and a physical and mental toughness that is, I guess you would kind of expect it. It's his third year. He should be making this kind of developmental progress. And I think so far it looks like he has.
So when you're taking a look at, if you're trying to cap, you're looking at Penn State and you're saying, oh, okay, they're playing well. Like, this is a good football team. What does it look like offensively?
Well, as you guys know, new coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, who came from Kansas. So it looks, they do a ton of things pre-snap to confuse the defense. And some of them are crazy things that I've never seen before. I mean, they had a play last time. This is Kent State. That was just kind of a practice session, a rehearsal. But they came out. The center's getting ready to snap the ball. The other four offensive linemen are out wide, bunched together like wide receivers. And Kent State is looking around saying, "What's happening?" And their coach called timeout. They do stuff like they'll put a guard in the slot and then put him in motion and have him pulling. And I mean, they direct snap the ball to the tight end twice on Saturday. One was a 16-yard run, and the other one was a touchdown pass from the tight end, Tyler Warren, to Nick Singleton, a running back. So it's a new thing. I don't think it's new so much in terms of the plays or the execution of the plays as it is all the things that Kotelnicki throws at you pre-snap.
We're talking with Mike Gross from Lancaster Online. Mike, is there anything you've seen so far, whether it was during the first half at Bowling Green or any other time during the season, that you think could raise possible concerns or problems as Penn State enters this stretch of 3 ranked teams over the course of the next 5 games?
Well, it had to get serious sometime. I mean, I think their schedule is manageable. It's not easy, but it's manageable. And I think the sequence of games in their schedule is pretty, I find it to be pretty favorable. Things to be concerned with, I don't think the wide receiver group, which was such a problem last year, I mean, they've been much better so far. And a couple of guys, a guy named Omari Evans in particular, has emerged as kind of a deep threat.
Yeah, he can run.
But that you've got to see that against better opposition. You've really got to see that against better opposition. And Illinois might be elite in the secondary. That seems to me like their strength as a team. So this will be a really good challenge for the wideouts and for Drew Aller, I think, in that respect.
They're definitely physical. We'll see if they can turn and run if you guys will try to get vertical on them. But I do.
Well, yeah, that's right.
I agree. Their physicality is something else. So, but I'm curious, Mike. So how do you think Coach Franklin is getting his guys to kind of stay in the moment, right? Because I think everybody, again, the elephant in the room is 7-2 clearly hasn't been good enough in the conference for some of the fan base. How has he kind of embraced like next opponent up to get you to stay right where your feet are?
Well, at least in terms, that's a good way to put it. At least in terms of his rhetoric, he is relentless about that all the time. And I think he has learned. You may remember when Saquon Barkley was there, like in 2018. They went through a stretch where, I mean, they had a brutal loss at Ohio State, and I think it was 39-38, a game that they really gave away. and then the next week they sort of carried it emotionally into the next week and laid an egg against Michigan State team that I thought they clearly should have handled. And Franklin has acknowledged that and acknowledged that, hey, I was maybe too emotional after those games. He went into the post-game press conference after those games and well, it's going to be different from here on out. We're getting the submarine and don't talk to anybody. And it was just this crazy rant. And I think he's tempered. I think he's matured a little bit and tempered his message. But they've always been, generally under Franklin, they've been pretty good at just be 1-0 this week, which if you cover the team, you've heard Franklin say that 100 million times. Be 1-0 this week, and it's Illinois. There's nothing else in the world but Illinois right now, and he certainly, his messaging is very good as far as how he gets the players to buy in. I would argue that over the course of his time, he's been pretty good at that.
Mike, as you kind of look at this team and fan expectations, is there anything that would make up for, let's say, Penn State going 11-1, but that loss is again to Ohio State? Like, is there anything from a perception standpoint that, because obviously you'd make the college football playoff at that point and have an opportunity to try and win a national championship. Is there anything at that point that would make up for that loss to Ohio State, or is that one of those that sooner or later James Franklin's just going to have to get one?
Well, he did get one in 2016, but 2016 is getting to be
a long time ago now. Nebraska played the bowl game in 2016. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, my God. All right.
Wow.
World War II here? What are we talking about? Boy, was that a cheap shot. Sorry, Huskers fans. Not even remotely called for. No, but you know what, Franklin, he has to win a playoff game. I mean, if they make the playoff and lose in the first round, all the people who are on his butt, what are they going to say? Well, they're going to say, well, yeah, you made the playoffs because they tripled the size of the playoff. Big deal. I mean, he's got to win a playoff game. I think that would erase to a large extent the Ohio State thing, assuming they are. I mean, if they go 11-1, lose to Ohio State, and then win a playoff game, I think Franklin's seat at least doesn't get any hotter. It's the funny thing. The funny thing about Franklin is so many people, and this maybe isn't that unusual, but so many people are down on him, and he doesn't have what it really takes. But then whenever a job opens, or whenever there's talk about a job,
his phone sure does ring, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness! They're already talking about Florida and Florida State. Florida State guy was the national coach of the year 6 months ago. It's crazy.
That is college football for you. Mike Gross from Lancaster Online. Mike, we appreciate the time. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, fellas.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Kicking off hour number 2. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Nothing.
You're staring at me like a crazy person.
Because that right there is exactly what I'm talking about. You can't serve two masters, right? You got to starve the flesh. Like, get that old losing thing out of you, and feeding the new flesh is the new culture. Because what these guys got to understand, and I think that's what we have to understand, Robbie. I'm dead serious here. Because I think what you get with Coach Rhule and kind of who he is as a person is he wants a culture that understands, and he almost doesn't want it to be easy. I joke and I say, oh, he likes chaos, but I'm kind of not joking, right? So I think you have to kind of go through this edification process, and kind of those crushing moments where you feel like that is the way that he's best at making it happen. So I don't want people to hear doom and gloom, because that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is, this is part of the process. This is what we have to go through. And because I'm having my press conference, I'm explaining to you what I'm seeing. I'm not at a loss for words.
No.
I'm not in my feelings. What this is I'm going to lay it on the line, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly what's going on. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I think yesterday was.
Yeah.
But that's for whatever the reason, it's like, well, shoot, cancel the season. I guess 5 wins, 6 wins, or however we felt. It was mind numbing yesterday for me to think, man, I completely feel like we missed the mark.
Can I make a sweeping generalization here about why we processed as a state, as a people?
Well, how'd you take it? Were you encouraged?
Yeah, I feel fine.
Did you feel fine?
I feel fine.
Okay.
But there's a very important distinction here, and it's not because I'm special. It's just I've gone through
like 70 IQ. What do you mean special?
Not because I'm different or distinct.
Okay.
Like I'm not
other than
a set apart, right?
Set aside. It's just that I've set apart.
It's just that I've
different than
been through and done work in certain areas in my own mental state to be able to understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Right. I think part of it is there's a large section of not just the Nebraska fan base, but just people in general that can't imagine being able to do the things he's talking about this team needing to do. That doesn't mean the team's not capable of it. It doesn't even mean the fan base is capable of it.
Wait, okay. No, walk me through. Okay.
Okay. So one of the things that he said is, I just need these guys to be themselves, right? One of the things that, because we're talking about anxiety here, right? You're bringing up Inside Out too.
Oh, 100%. Okay,
we're talking about anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? I call it existential anxiety. It's anxiety about who you are. That's what this anxiety is. And that's what most people, I get anxiety when I get on an airplane, right? Because I don't like the whole experience, right? But there's also existential anxiety about I don't know who I am. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know where I fit in the world, right? That's what a lot of people have on some level and don't really want to acknowledge.
Okay.
But you know where that comes from? Is most of the time that comes from it comes from a fear that being yourself isn't going to cut it. And so
I could totally see some guys that haven't had success saying to themselves, my best hasn't been good enough so far.
What they think is their best hasn't been good enough so far.
Okay.
Because it's a subconscious thing. You think you've tried your hardest and you haven't. Your mind is protecting you from putting yourself all the way out there and failing. Because deep down,
can I just say
failure.
Something? This is a little selfish because it's kind of oxymoronic. I don't think there's any better joy than laying it on the line, knowing you put it out there, and it may or may not have been good enough.
But you've been through that. You've done that. And you've gotten the different results, but some of those results have been overwhelmingly positive.
And some have been overwhelmingly bad.
You know the overwhelmingly positive is there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
if you've done that, because usually what happens, why a lot of people end up in this spot.
That's interesting.
Why a lot of people end up in this spot, myself included at certain points in my life.
This is really what you're talking. You're really just talking about competing in general.
Yes. Right. But there is a lot of people out there where they don't have the overwhelmingly positive result to laying it on the line. A lot of times their only frame of reference for laying it on the line is failure. And so they don't, whether they mean to or not, they put themselves in positions where they don't have to feel like that again.
You ever coached a player that doesn't kind of maximize?
100%. I coach
because it leaves them margin for error if it doesn't work.
That's who I was as a person until I was 30 years old.
Oh, okay.
I've
coached those guys.
I've coached those guys, and
they don't lay out for a ball because if they lay out and they don't catch it,
my biggest takeaway was when I went to therapy after I got divorced was I was never being truly myself to anyone in my life, because if I wasn't myself, I could always, and then people didn't like me then, I could always say, I was like, I wasn't being the real me. it always gives you an excuse.
So
If you don't lay it all on the line, you always have an excuse. And that excuse to a lot of people is more valuable than knowing whether or not they're good enough.
So you asked me at what point do I think he has to move on?
Mhm.
You know, and go young or whatever.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, I
Because
agree.
now I'm because I know the frame of reference of the question now,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
But there is a point. There is a point
because
where he may have to do that.
Because we did hear him say, "What, Shane? I don't know if you cut the exact clip up, but he said, I challenged our. It was where he told Van Poppel to grab his helmet,
Mhm.
or get in there because some of those guys
And they said, wait.
yeah,
Mhm.
I
I doubt Van Poppel was the only one.
No, he wasn't actually.
I'm guessing.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he wasn't.
The way that other guys were playing, that there were probably a few guys that he was like, go get your helmet.
Yeah,
and then was like, okay, hold on, just let's wait a second.
Yeah,
let's see if these guys can get through it.
So what do you think it is? Because I'm watching, we're watching this deal, and we're not making it. So one of the things I said during the broadcast 2 weeks ago on Bullock Strip was Hartzog secured the tackle. Like in real time, I said, don't undersell Hartzog
securing the
tackle first that allows Bullock to come
go
in
make the play.
So when we say, well, there were things that happened at Northern Iowa that was kind of a precursor, like what are we really talking about? Because I don't think we do know what we're talking about. I think we're saying
we didn't like how it looked at Northern Iowa. We didn't like how it looked at Illinois. But we're not specific. We're not talking about specifics.
Because you know what the dangerous thing about that?
What's that?
See, the players have to move on past that. See, that's a fan's mentality, like, because the players got to be able to say, "Look, we won. Let's move on." Not, well, we didn't do this against this opponent, so we're not really capable.
Yeah, is that who we are?
If we couldn't do that against them, can we do it against this?
Is that who we are?
Because they're not they are afforded that luxury if they don't want to ever beat anybody of substance,
right?
But they can't really think like that if you want to move the ball forward.
Well, that's why I asked the question about is there a point where guys can't shake that mentality that you have to move on? Because I do think it's really hard if your experiences from laying it on the line are mostly negative. It's really hard to continue to put yourself in that position. It just is.
Yeah.
And if you have guys that for whatever reason can't get themselves to that spot, you have to go find guys that will. Because if let's say you're Riley Van Poppel, you're 80% as good as Tyre Nash.
Well, yeah, whatever
the number is.
Yeah.
But you're able to lay it on the line 90% of the time instead of 70% of the time. And this is, again, not an indictment of Tyre Nash, just an example. If you're able to lay it on the line 90% of the time and you're 80% as good, there's a point where that becomes more valuable than being 100% as good, but only laying on the line 70%
tell guys,
of the
listen,
time.
if you'll just hang in there longer.
Yeah. What does Coach Rhule talk about? Competitive endurance.
You're in my, this is my total sweet spot, because this is really, it comes up all the time in coaching. I don't care if I'm coaching I don't coach them anymore because they're all in high school now, even though they're not at the right high school. No, I'm kidding. I talk about this all the time with the young guys.
Yeah, when you were coaching Micah's middle school team.
Right. It's like, I'll say it to these guys. I said it at my previous stops. Like, that part is so important to understand if you want to do anything.
That's why, though.
If you want to do anything,
that's why
worth doing.
The anxiety and insecurity is so important, because in order to have competitive endurance,
he talks about that and I light up.
You have to believe, if you're going to have competitive endurance, you have to believe that at some point enduring will be good enough.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that about yourself, then competitive endurance becomes
coming out of the back end of a bad divorce.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
That if you don't believe that about yourself, then it gets real tricky in a hurry.
Yeah.
And that's the part where we don't know that about which guys yet.
So I want to go back to the chicken or the egg thing, though, because when the abstract of you can't serve two things at once. The falling in love with the training part, I think, has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Like, I'm not sure. Like, do I think you have to actually win? I don't know, because I like the part. I 100% believe doing winning things
leads to winning. I agree. That's why I talk so much about the, like, remember in the offseason we were talking about all the little benchmarks they'd give people?
Oh, yeah.
You know, why I liked that so much is because it creates wins for people, right? If you're like, hey, if you follow the process, you get a win.
Because that's the thing about competition too, right?
Yeah. Creating competition in practice or training or whatever is it creates opportunities to win.
I meant the people you have to put it on the line against, right?
Sure.
Because Illinois is coming with their own certain set of what they believe.
Yeah.
And what motivates them.
Yeah.
And what their training is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big reason why you can't make it about the opponent.
No.
It
is not opponent specific.
But that's all we ever talk about.
Yeah. It's not opponent specific.
Well, we saw this against this team, and we saw this. And so what I always come back.
Colorado's not very good.
So what do I want to come back and say? Listen, at some point you got to move on to being your own benchmark.
Yeah.
It's not about.
And Nebraska's working on it. They're not quite there yet, I don't think. They're working on it.
I told this story in passing a couple of times, but I remember clearly one time Clinton said, we were in the huddle, and this was at practice, and defense was whipping our ass pretty good, right? And coach guys are kind of in a foul mood, and we get ready to go back to like group work, and he's like, this ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. This is about us. And he was like, blankety blank the dumb, like, forget the dumb stuff, right? And I just remember, like, why are we worried about what they're doing? Why don't we just, like, it just in that there was like this moment of clarity where I'm thinking,
this isn't about anybody else.
We say fancy things like control the controllables and do your 1 of 11,
but what does that mean?
But all of that really means
it's
like
not about anybody else. It's about you.
Yeah, because like I said, selfish. Like I said at the end of the deal, like selfishly, I say, you know what? There's joy in coming through the back end of that, right? That's why I rather tap teams out. Like that's why I loved Michigan.
Because
like I prefer much more to be the anaconda or the Burmese,
squeeze the life out of them
than
the viper,
the
quick strike,
the cobra.
Yeah,
right. Hey, this was stupid and morbid, but I was like, man, these serial killers with like that shoot like guns, like. I know it's weird, right? But it's how I think.
Yeah,
it's too easy. Not that pulling a trigger is easy, but
no.
But I mean, if I'm already capable of going there, like,
yeah,
what's no?
That's one of the reasons.
It's a weird example.
Why I appreciate the strength and conditioning and the training part so much, because part of breaking this mindset that we're talking about is proving to yourself that you can do hard things and come out the back end. Right? You only get 12 opportunities a year to do that on a field.
Yeah, guaranteed.
You get 300 opportunities to do that over the course of a year. Right? So that's why those things are important. Obviously, you have the physical, like you have to get stronger, you have to get faster, whatever, right? But the mental benefits of those, of putting guys through really difficult things. That's why Coach Rhule said, hey, just give me
a tough team,
the toughest team you can. I don't care what you do. Give me the toughest team you can, right? It's because you need guys that can go through hell go through hard things, come out the other side, and know they can do it again.
So what do you think? So a lot of hero ball on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to explain to his team. But I don't know how important it is for him to, because I don't know what he says to his team personally. Like how much credit you want to give Illinois, or how much credit you don't want to give Illinois. Like I heard PJ Fleck's press conference yesterday. He was so mad, but I watched that game a lot because I'm a big Caleb. I like the way he runs the ball. He's a prime example. KJ is a prime example of what vision and decisiveness can do for a runner. Because I don't know what his physical attributes are. Like I don't know what he's going to run. I don't know any of that.
You know, if he's a 4.4 guy or whatever.
I just watch him run, and I know it hasn't been easy for him since he's been in Iowa.
100%.
Right? He's gone through. So I like when guys come out of the back end. So I'm watching that game, and I'm like, man, at no point when they hand him the ball does Minnesota want to see this dude. Like I just felt like he's already winning psychologically
before they even hand him the ball.
Yeah. See, I enjoy watching that. It's kind of warped, but when I listen to Fleck talk, like he was so mad about what they didn't do, but I understood it because could he have given Iowa credit? Because that's what I would have done. I was like, hey man, you guys,
and you can do both. But here's where
but coach, like alphas like that. And it's not even being delusional. All he cared about in that moment, it was that they were the best, whatever that best version was, even if it wasn't good enough to get the dub.
So that's what I was just gonna say. Is I will bet you, and I'm not a huge PJ Fleck guy. I don't hate him the way some people do, but you know, whatever. I think he's a little cheesy. But I guarantee you, if he thought Minnesota did everything they could, he would have then given Iowa credit. Because he would have said, "Hey,
yeah, probably
we played our A game and they beat us."
Yeah, probably.
Right? Because that's how those types of guys talk. If they actually feel they did all the things they could have, they're very quick to give credit, right? Because they know, hey, we just got beat by a better team that day. But until they get to that point, it's going to be about them. It's going to be about what they didn't do and what they could have done.
That's interesting too, because they just Nebraska just won't bend in that. Like they could have played Mazuka. They could have.
Yeah.
If it was all about winning.
Yeah, and they would have been better if they played Mazuka.
They didn't, though.
Nope.
You know the ultimate edification in that whole process?
What's that?
You ran him out there on
special teams.
Special teams.
Yep.
Right, so that's going to sit a certain way. Now, he's older, and he's been through a lot of games, so I don't know if you're going to change it right then, but I guarantee you, like that's a learning deal, and they weren't going to compromise.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to. So that's how I know. Like when you say, "Hey, at what point will they, for lack of a better term, go young?" Not yet. It's like Old Boy and Gladiator, right? He's got the little dolls, and he's putting them in the sand. And he's like,
"I will see you again."
Not yet,
but not yet.
Not yet, my friend.
Yeah.
Not yet. You still got a ways to go.
Yeah.
Because they're still in that edification process.
Which is totally fair. I'm not saying they should give up on him. I do think there is a point where you have to make a decision about whether you think a guy can get to the place you need him to mentally. And I don't know when that point is.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not in that room.
So I think this one is the first big emotional.
For sure. I mean, for the most part, everything's done well until now.
Yeah, because it could be a soul snatcher,
right? Or
and you won't know until
later.
You line it up in West Lafayette at 11.
Yeah, because it could go. I mean, it could go either way. It could be, hey, this was the gut check.
What's the line? Do we know?
Open at 10.5 or at 10?
I assume Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Purdue's pretty bad. Purdue's pretty bad.
Yeah. Again, you're talking to a guy like.
I'm just saying.
I don't worry too much about the opponent.
No, that's fine. But I mean, for the line purposes, like Purdue's pretty bad. That's not a team that, if everything is clicking right mentally for Nebraska, that will challenge them.
Yeah. So for me, first broadcast I ever did for the network, mid-season, fill in, like super awkward, tough spot. The only thing I remember is Maccabee running wild.
Yep.
So
that's a guy that has given Nebraska a lot of trouble.
So forgive me.
Yeah.
If
that's fine.
I'm not vibing with one word you said.
Listen,
I don't remember the travel schedule.
Again.
I don't remember what I ate, but I do remember Maccabee having a field day.
I understand that. That's past trauma creating future anxiety. That's your baggage.
That's fine.
Because objectively, and you're not wrong.
Hey,
Maccabee ran
you
wild.
can't use me against me.
Maccabee ran wild, but guess what? Purdue's a pretty bad football team.
My point in saying that was,
I'm not saying they can't win. I'm not, right? We've seen that before.
Oh, you Adrian at the top of the stairs? You can't win, Rock. And he looked at her. And he got in his car and he drove real fast. Nebraska's going to get in their car and they're going to drive real fast.
Not cool, Adrian.
Then they're going to go, they're training right now.
I'm just saying, you having nightmares of Maccabee, that's a you problem. Purdue's a bad football team. Nebraska still got to go take care of what they do.
I'll punch you right in your soup coolers.
Purdue's a bad football team. That's CB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back for more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're halfway through the show. AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio. DB's just not going to put his headset on today? No? You good? All right. I guess it's, I guess that's what we're going to do today. It's all right.
I think Jamie thinks I'm a little weird and a little morbid, but
I think Shane could probably just have a conversation with me in your drops and just see what happens. You know?
Going down with them chicken thighs.
Nope, not that.
Bust it on down.
Not that at all. Nope.
He said,
I'm kind of a swallower.
Wait a second.
I don't even know what context that's in.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea.
It's because I want a mustache like that. That's all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I just can't go facial. Oh. Wow.
You good, Shane? Or
was that me?
Damon Benning is the tailback. Nebraska's looking for the door slammer right here.
What? Is that me?
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Those were all you. I mean, some of those were out of context.
I got some. Oh, clearly.
One of them was Keith Jackson.
Shut up.
Well,
you're a cricket now. You couldn't.
He said they were all you, and they weren't.
Talk about weights.
Keith Jackson.
Jamie goes, what? That's just how I think. I just don't think guns are they're impersonable.
Yeah, they are.
That's all.
Usually there's types of profiles for certain people that use guns that don't use guns in terms of like serial killers.
Like, I'm well aware.
Generally they're
try not to have my mom change the channel.
Motivations and
what am I raising?
Well,
I'm perfectly normal.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I am.
You might be functional, but normal's a stretch.
Hey, you should see the thing. You should see the theme this week for Central. We have to play a certain way.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it since Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's a
little nitty gritty, a little grimy.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to.
I mean, for lack of a better term.
You like grimy. That's your favorite word.
I do.
You love it when things get grimy.
It's just something. There's just something a little more pleasing about that.
That's why you like the Chargers.
I like the fact they took the L.
You like get grimy
because we have a QB1.
Yeah, Justin Fields. That's your guy.
I'm not falling for that.
I actually wanted to ask you about that.
Why?
Well, so we got a few reclamation projects.
At the quarterback spot.
At the quarterback spot for
only one I believe in.
Well, that's the question, right?
It is.
I think I know which one you believe in, so I'm going to say that for
which
last.
one do I? Okay, go ahead.
I'll save that one for last.
Okay.
Obviously, Fields and the Steelers is one of them.
Yeah, I mean,
and you don't seem sold.
I'm all in because he's getting better.
Yeah,
and they're well coached. And
he looked pretty good on Sunday.
And I'm trying to make the case. Well, I think starting 10 of 10 helps.
It does.
I was trying to make the case when you felt like Mahomes was blasphemed when he wasn't the number one player in the NFL.
And that's really dumb.
I said the only player that's a non-quarterback that I could see being voted the best player in the league is Watt.
Yeah, and it wasn't him. It was
Tyreek
or
and I
somebody.
wasn't logging on to the Homer Network. He's
phenomenal.
He's incredible.
Yeah, no, I don't even think he was ahead of Mahomes.
So they're playing defensively at a really, really, really high level.
Yeah, they're trying to Iowa this thing as much as possible.
So was it X's and O's or TK? Somebody just sent me a deal from. I suppose I should look.
Mm-hmm.
Was it FanDuel or DraftKings? Oh, it was my man X's and O's. So the team total for the Colts
this week,
it's shaded to 19.5. The Steelers give up less than that a game, and it's A. Richardson.
And Anthony Richardson sucks.
So that kind of scares me a little.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not all in on Fields. I'm enjoying the ride.
Can he be good enough with that defense?
Yeah.
For them to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know how good.
I mean, do we have to play Broderick Jones at tackle or
How are the older guys going to take it?
No, like I'm going to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility in your mind that he could turn into something more than you're open to it?
Yeah, like Lecrae. I'm a believer. Do you want me to play that?
I'm just going to move right on. Number 2.
I thought that was the Monkees.
Hey, why would you go there, Shane?
Because they sing the song.
They do. They do sing I'm a Believer.
Oh.
Famously covered by Smash Mouth for one of the Shrek movies.
Don't ever say that to me again, Shane.
Second team. You ready? Smaller sample size.
Okay.
But had a pretty good day and looked dramatically different than the previous quarterback.
Okay.
Can you guess who it is?
Malik Willis.
No. That's a good one, though. I almost put him on here.
No.
Andy Dalton.
Oh, good one.
What do we do with Andy Dalton?
Too small a sample size.
Right. Small sample size, but, man, that looked a hell of a lot different.
And he's been good before.
Yeah, he has. He has. So it's less of a reclamation project, but it's more dramatic because of the Panthers. Like the Panthers are so much worse
and
than
they busted their rear end. Like
they did.
They jumped on him pretty good.
And it looked like a totally different team.
I don't know how sustainable it is, but he's capable.
Because I still don't think that's a very good roster.
Yeah.
But they're going to be competitive.
He was amazingly accurate too.
Yeah, he really was. He threw some dimes.
Yeah, I'll watch that. I still don't.
It was a small sample size.
I don't know how they're going to get enough stops, but
I don't either.
That's fine.
But they may be able to score.
Yeah.
That's going to be really interesting. Because Andy, like you said, Andy Dalton's got a track record of being all right.
Hubbard does run hard.
He does. A lot of people like Hubbard. Andy Dalton's a functional NFL quarterback.
I can't remember. Is it like Chubba, like Chumbawamba, or is it Chuba, like Chew Bubblegum?
Like Chupacabra?
Yeah, there's Chupacabra out there. I don't know why you act like they don't exist. They're real.
It's Chubba.
Okay, yeah, they're real.
Because he's the Oklahoma State guy, right? Chubba Hubbard?
Do we want to tell our listeners?
No, it's fine.
Okay, because those things are real.
We don't want to scare them.
I don't want to scare me. Who's the other?
Last one. You know what the last one is.
Oh, Sam I am.
Yeah, Darnold with the Vikings.
Green eggs and ham.
Do you buy the Sam Darnold Vikings?
Yes, I do.
I do too.
It's a good football. I text Schaefer. It's probably 120.
Mm-hmm. AM?
PM.
Okay.
I said, hey, Vikings are pretty good.
Yeah, you got a guy.
Yeah, they're
because you liked their roster anyway.
Yep, I like the Vikings.
And
that's a good football team.
You weren't totally sure what was going to happen with the quarterback between McCarthy and Darnold.
Yeah, the Vikings are good.
But you could make the argument that obviously you don't ever want anybody to get hurt, but that this having to play Darnold was the best thing that could happen.
Because they were going to play him anyway. Yeah. I think.
Well, they would have played him for at least part of the year. Yeah. I think they may have felt the pressure at some point.
But he would have. Right now he's playing well.
He's playing really well right now, and he's a guy that no one's ever questioned the talent.
And wait till they get Addison and Hawkinson back.
Yeah,
forget
that two of his three best pass catchers are not playing right now.
Yeah,
and that's a guy that nobody's ever questioned the talent. But when you start with the Jets,
they should be pretty good.
When you start with the Jets, it's pretty hard.
They had a rebirth at the running back spot too. Although Green Bay's not licking their wounds yet because I think
they like Jacobs.
I think Jacobs just had another 10-yard run.
Yeah, just not.
Dude,
Just
LaFleur can coach.
rolled. I mean, if you win 2 games with Malik Willis, like coach of the year.
He was 13 of 19.
Yeah.
He was just playing catch.
Yeah.
And why is my man JL? Come on, Johnny. Johnny's mad that we weren't defending the RPO. Had he not watched Altmaier with the RPO all year?
Probably not.
Like, this guy's pretty good with the RPO.
I don't.
Now we'll see what they do. Penn State does, but I mean, they came stop Green Bay's RPO, and that's the NFL.
I'm not under the impression, and this is not a judgment. I'm just not under the impression that a lot of Nebraska fans watched a ton of Illinois before that game.
Yeah.
I think they kind of assumed who they were from last year, and that wasn't who they were this year.
Mm-mm.
Let's get to Brian real quick before we have to hop off here on this segment. Brian, you got about a minute. What's up?
Got about it. Oh, nothing. They really even use that FanDuel app. I don't even see why he get notifications on it. It's not a
I didn't have it. My man Husker X's and O's did.
We're Warhorse
No, you
people,
don't
Brian.
use
You know
that.
that.
Does it 19 and a half
Yeah.
seem like a lot?
Seems like a big number.
Kind of disappointed.
I'm surprised you even see that.
No, he sent it to me. Otherwise, my eyes are closed, baby. Eyes wide shut, B. That's how I live my life. What's up?
Well, just listening to you guys, it's interesting that Ravi brought up that point of faith for the players, because that's what my analyzation was. Like, basically, my recommendation for them would be to accept the fact that the way that you've done things so far hasn't worked. And then once you get that accepted, then you should have no problem or freedom accepting trying another way to try to get the job done. That seems to be what the problem is to me. If you can't buy into it, then sorry, but you might just have to go watch other people do what you're not able to do.
Hey,
That's just the reality of the situation.
real quick, B. Would you rather your coach say that stuff out loud? You know, like that's like the classic, oh, ball security, and then the guy fumbles. Like, do you like knowing what you're dealing with?
Yes, because I don't think people understand my saying. There is only 24 hours in the day. Do not waste a second sugarcoating it to me. Give it to me straight. That's how I want it.
Brian, appreciate the call. We'll talk to you later.
Like my drinks.
We got Jacob Padilla coming up next. Talk a little volleyball here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Jacob Padilla of Hurrdat Sports. JP, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Good morning.
Hey guys, what's up? So
It's
JP,
so pleasant.
what are you more surprised by? The fact that the Bills haven't lost a regular season game by more than 6 points since 2021, or the fact that LaFleur's got Malik Willis looking like a functional quarterback?
Let's go with the second one. I've been really impressed with how that's played out. I didn't really watch that Bills game last night, but every time I looked at the score, they had like 10 more points. I don't know what exactly happened there, but yeah, I also don't know how Malik Willis has been one of the most effective and efficient quarterbacks in the league the last couple of weeks. So
we've officially hit bizarro world. Malik Willis looks like a functional quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence is about to be benched.
Generational talent, though.
Ooh.
Yeah, you tell me he's not talented. That's fine. I mean, I won't trust your quarterback, Eagles. I didn't say he was good. I said he was talented.
Oh,
There's a big
shoot.
difference. Will Levis pretty damn talented, too. How's Will Levis doing?
That guy.
That's debatable.
Yeah, I agreed.
You don't even think he's talented?
Thank you, JP.
You guys are nuts.
Kinda.
Good and talented are not the same.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, especially with Lawrence. But I don't know.
I'm not saying Will Levis is generational. He's talented. He's just not good.
He has a big arm. I don't know that he's overall that talented at NFL level football, though.
Yeah, I'm Team Jacob on this one.
Surprise, surprise, ganging up on me again.
JP, how good is volleyball in the state currently, man? It seems like it's pretty good.
Is it good or are they just talented?
Oh, wow.
little bit of both.
You're in it. You're in his group chat with him, so you know he can be petty. You gassed him up, so I'll let you handle him.
Man, people don't know Jacob's like King Petty.
No,
like,
believe me, I know.
You know, but
He's
the rest of
cut
the world,
me down a couple of
the
times.
rest of the world doesn't know. Jacob's just as petty as I am.
How good is the volleyball, young Jacob?
Well, you got 2 top 6 teams in the country right here in our state. Pretty incredible. Creighton just reached the highest ranking in school history, and we know Nebraska is back up to number 2 after both teams went 2-0 against top 10 teams last weekend, playing at a really high level. Obviously, we just saw that they went to 5 games against each other as well. So, you got two of the best teams in the country here in Nebraska, and Nebraska has obviously been this for a long time at this level, but just kind of the continued rise of Creighton volleyball is a testament to Coach Kirsten Bernthal Booth and her staff, and the work that everybody in that program has done to kind of keep leveling up year after year. It's great for volleyball fans in the state for sure.
Jacob, I guess as you've kind of watched this progression with Creighton, has there been any surprise for you that they haven't reached really any kind of ceiling? They just continue to level up. I would have thought at some point, at some point the recruiting is going to sort of reach a ceiling, or at some point you're going to kind of maximize the talent that you have available to you. But Coach Booth over and over and over again has seemingly just been able to push that ceiling a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher. Like, has that surprised you at all? Because if I'm being honest, I did think they'd reach a ceiling at some point.
Yeah, a little bit. A few years ago, when they first started breaking through and making the tournament runs, he was like, "Oh, this is pretty special." And then you had Jaylee Winters and Taryn Clote together, and you're like, "This is probably as good as it's going to get." And it wasn't. Here they are now having a chance to again push it even further, and it just, a lot of it has to do with decisions that Booth has made, and kind of the pieces they've continued to add. Landing Kendra Waite was, I think that's a big part. Creighton's had some great setters over the years, but landing someone like Waite that is uniquely talented as a setter, just with how athletic and physical she is, and the different ways she's able to impact the game. Then you add somebody like Nora Sis, who in-state product right there in Omaha, able to keep her home, and she's developed into an All-American. And then the last couple of years, they've fit in some pieces in the transfer portal that have kind of filled the gaps, adding Vilanovic and Getzinger this past offseason to kind of plug the holes, and while also continuing to develop within. Jaya Johnson stepping in on the right side after redshirting and having some really nice moments.
Boy, she looks explosive.
Kind of what you get. Yeah. So, and that's again a development where redshirted last year, talented player coming in, but they had veterans at that group, and redshirter now this second year they found a place to get her on the court on that right side, and she's done a great job kind of filling in there. So it's just they continue to make all the right moves, and won some important recruiting battles, and has put together a team that is really well-rounded and fits together.
Yeah, it's incredible. Since I think it's Kirkwood, right? It's coming over from Kirkwood CC, I think in 03 when Rass got her. She's won a minimum of 23 games outside of the COVID year every year since 2012. Hasn't lost less than 23 games, or won less than 23 games. But let me ask you something, Jacob, because I think she's been at Creighton longer than I think maybe we think. Obviously, I just dated 2003. How strange is it to see somebody on such an uptick after being there for so long? Because this is a long tenure.
Slow burn.
Right?
Like a slow burn.
But we're kind of seeing it with Flan too in basketball, right? Like this upward thing with duration. Like, how is this rare? Is this new in volleyball? Because it seems rare to me.
I was going to say, I think that 2012 was the first year that I started covering Creighton volleyball.
Yeah, and I think she got 29 of them in your first year, so she did you solid.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe just coincidence there. But anyway.
Oh, JP's taking credit. Okay. I see how it is.
I tried that with North, and Larry told me to beat it. But JP, on a serious note, though, let me switch over to Nebraska real quick, because I marvel watching her because she's so gosh darn explosive. But how good has Andy Jackson become? Is it safe to say now she's Nebraska's best player?
I think with a team like this, best player, it's kind of hard to identify, and it probably changes match to match. They're so well-rounded.
You wet
so many
blanket.
talented players. She is as explosive as anybody in the country, really, though. And when they're able to keep her involved, like she's not Nebraska's most well-rounded player, and obviously only playing 3 rotations like she does, that limits how much you can impact the game because you're on the bench for half the time. So that kind of like players like Bergen Riley, and I think you probably still kind of look at her as the centerpiece, but you've got Lexi Rodriguez, who's one of the best liberos we've seen, and plays all the way plays the whole match. So you probably defer to those players in terms of just best all-around player, but nobody has the highs that Andy Jackson does. Like, her highlight plays are as good as anybody you'll see in the country. She's just so athletic, and she's taken a step forward in just her ability to stay involved and to be impactful. Like, she's stepped up the amount of attack she's getting, and is hitting over 500. That's crazy. 11 matches in, hitting 512 with over 2.5 kills per set. So she's spectacular. And again, she's only a year and not even halfway through her career. So looking forward to seeing her future in Lincoln.
What's happened in your opinion since SMU? I mean, they've annihilated some good opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I think especially recent this past week, their serving has taken a big step forward. And that was something that even last year when they were running through, going undefeated up and for as long as they did and all that, serving last handful of years, serving hasn't really been a huge weapon for them. Where they've never been terribly high ace and probably a little bit more error prone than you'd like to see across the board. And over the last 3 matches in particular, they have 15 aces and just 12 errors. They've only given up 3 aces, and they're forced 22 for their opponent. 22 extra points before you even get to taking teams out of system and all that. So, like, they're so good across the board. Like, if you're serving well on top of that, then there's really no chance that teams are going to be able to keep up with Nebraska. So
that's Jacob Padilla from Hurrdat Sports. JP, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, JP.
Sounds good.
Hour number 3 coming up next on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, hour number 3, we're on KFOR in Lincoln. That's
Hello,
DP.
Lincoln.
I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where we're joined by our guy Mike Schaefer, rocking the Cleveland hat.
Skol.
What's up, Schaefer?
Skol.
I noticed you yawned during that Sam Darnold highlight. Getting a little bored with that kind of performance.
No,
He's a Florida State fan. He doesn't know what good quarterback play looks like.
that's hurtful. It's just because I knew he was going to be good, so it's old news to me.
That's a lie.
I know he was with Kyle Shanahan for a year, so obviously he was fixed.
Shafe, I was the only one championing the Vikings on this set, so don't let Ravi hop on your bandwagon.
Because I didn't think they'd be smart enough to start Sam Darnold. I thought they were going to start that bum JJ.
Wow.
Now that is a take I can agree with, clearly. But I think we'd be remiss. I think we'd be remiss given last year.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we'd be remiss given last year's big, long debate. Ravi, would you like to, do you still feel like Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent?
Yes, I do. I think he's bad at football, but I think he's generational talent. Like Jamarcus Russell's a generational talent.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
We've seen lots of big, strong arm, athletic guys. Knock it off.
So what do you think talent is?
You said generational.
Yeah, how many guys have ever been able to physically do what Jamarcus Russell did?
Lots have been able to do what Trevor Lawrence has done. I know that.
Physically been able, like,
what?
Not lots.
Because he was 3'10"?
Well, he wasn't always 3'10". He was a big, strong, athletic dude, could do whatever he wanted throwing the football. He was just bad at football. Talent and production are not the same thing.
Hey, Schaefer.
Lots of talented guys are really bad at football.
Hey, Schaefer, in honor of your hat, when does Alex Cobb come back?
They're hoping he gets a start in this week. They want him to throw before the postseason. He's going to be one of their rotation guys. They like him quite a bit. It's just a blister or a fingernail or some sort of random injury every time out. So
how about
I would anticipate he throws in that Houston series, even if it's just like 3 innings.
How about Steven hit the Quan? Is he about to come back? Hit the Quan.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be pretty healthy going into October. That doesn't necessarily mean much of anything for them.
I hope Alex Cobb gets a really bad tummy ache and isn't able to take a start.
Wow. Well, spiteful.
It's possible.
Spiteful, Ravi Lulla.
It's possible. I don't know what Alex Cobb has to do with the fact that Trevor Lawrence isn't a very good quarterback.
I didn't say he's a good quarterback. I say he's generationally talented.
I don't know. We got to move on. I don't know.
No, wait. I have a couple more baseball questions, Schaefer.
Okay, sorry. Yes.
So will the Royals be in or out?
I think the Royals will be in. I think the Tigers will be in. I think the Mariners and the Twins will be out.
Wow, if the Twins tinkle this down their leg, that would be monumental. Although they are so banged up.
The Royals have really tried to help them out.
Oh, yeah.
They've done their best.
Yeah, I mean, if the Royals won one game last week, they would be in a really good spot right now. Instead, not so much.
Will this be the first postseason in quite some time without the Atlanta Braves?
Seems that way. I mean, I think the Mets have that final spot right now. The Diamondbacks seem to be flirting with leaking oil at the wrong time too, though. So, I wouldn't.
Kind of like me as a little leaguer, I may have peaked way too soon, kind of like the D-backs, because they were playing really, really good baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, are the Braves a threatening team in October right now? Like, they have the name and they have a little bit of star power, but this isn't really the Braves team that you thought you were getting in March. So frankly.
Well, they got Albies back. I think everybody's pretty healthy Fried, Sale, Morton, and Schwelly is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for Schwellenbach is basically the reason I would want the Braves to make October, to get to see him make a start. Otherwise, they're less compelling to me than like the Mets. I'd rather see the Mets in there.
Mm-hmm.
Schaefer, you want to?
My guy Lindor. I want to see Lindor in October.
Big Lindor guy.
Oh, no. Wait. So,
he's your guy?
Did you ever get off of Lindor, or were you just
no? I am not one of those guys that once they leave my team, I hate them. Like, that's never really been I like Kirk Cousins still. I liked Randy Moss when he got traded because he wanted to go out of town. I'm the world's biggest Stephon Diggs fan, even though everyone comes up with BS reasons as to why he's a jackass, because the guy wants to win. He didn't want to play in a terrible offense. That's not his fault. He didn't want to see Adam Thielen get all the credit. That's not his fault either. I like Stephon Diggs. If I like a player, it takes a lot for me to sort of turn on them. And so Francisco Lindor wanting the bag because he's a Hall of Fame shortstop, and the Cleveland owners not wanting to pay market rate for good players, why would I hate Lindor for that? I just like the ownership.
838 OPS and 31 dongs. He bounced back nicely.
The funny thing is he's underrated now. He doesn't make all-star games. People don't even realize how good he is. And if Shohei Ohtani wasn't just an absolute stud, there'd be like a legitimate Lindor MVP conversation.
Ahead of Ozuna.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
I love it. The Braves are like the Dodger killer. All right, Mike J. So, and on your message board in your sphere of influence, was the general consensus from the presser yesterday doom and gloom?
I don't know that it's doom and gloom. I think that people were taking the first loss of the season really, really hard. The way that the loss happened, the way that, it looked a lot like other games in last year in particular, where you weren't able to close it out in the fourth quarter. The fact that Nebraska's defense kind of failed on every level, really. I just think there's just a lot of carryover. Like there's some anger and just general sadness carrying over from Friday. I don't know that Monday's commentary added a ton to it. I think that was already there. It just kind of kept the, flames going a little bit longer.
Schaefer, how much different do you think the fan base would feel, if at all, if overtime had played out differently, but Nebraska still lost? Let's say Nebraska gets the ball first, they score, Illinois gets it, goes for 2, and wins the game. If that plays out, does that matter?
No. So what I think people are upset about is that they thought that this was a defense that could just shut Illinois down entirely. And Illinois was able to run the ball. I mean, Illinois had easy run success. Illinois' offensive coordinator, I thought, had a tremendous game, keeping Nebraska off balance. It felt like when Nebraska thought a run was coming, they were getting hit with a pass. When Nebraska thought it was going to be a pass, it was a quick handoff, and they were able to steal 5-6 yards. I mean, it just – I think the anger sort of extends from how the defense isn't how people perceived it to be, at least for 1 week, which is more of where I'm at with it. And then I think there's also just we heard all summer how special teams could be a problem for Nebraska. And then you have your backup kicker isn't able to make that field goal. Your punter kicks it to the wrong side of the field. Your coverage unit can't cover on that first, initial kickoff. Like there's just all these little things. I do think there's some real, people are tired of being bad at special teams, and this has been going on for some time now. So I think that festers into it as well. Illinois, even if Nebraska had won that game, it was going to be they're not as good as we think they are conversation, instead of a, hey man, they escaped with a win when they didn't play well. Like that's how I view Friday. I view Friday as a game where Nebraska didn't really play well in 2 out of 3 phases and still had a chance to win, and was just, an outstretched throw from Luke Lindenmeyer being up 7 in the fourth quarter against an Illinois team that's ranked, that's probably, to me, top half of the Big Ten, and came in with a better game plan. I mean, so it was, it's a deal where I think people just kind of want to be in their fields a little bit on it.
I kind of like that term. That was my tweet this morning to start the show. A little Inside Out too. Can't wait till Huddy's over here rocking little kid movies. Schaefer, you're going to be a genius like me. Listen,
a lot to aspire to.
With kids movies, nothing else. And being petty, because I think both me and you can do that.
Oh yeah.
When we get,
I don't know that I need a sensei on being petty, Damon.
Well, I have one sitting next to me, so I give him a lot of credit.
What I do.
But listen, so Schaefer, are you surprised or not surprised, or thought it would be more? Because we just heard 2 of the 3 phases. Yet offensively, I think running the ball, or at least vision with running the ball, coupled with run blocking, a little pass pro, a little careless in the pocket with the ball. Some guys open offensively. Does offense off the hook, or you feel like because of the position they were in, we focused on the other 2 things because we could see it easier?
I don't think offense is off the hook. But I do think if you go back to kind of how conversations were framed about this season, the idea was if you get to, if you get 4 scores, so 24 points, that should put you in position to win games. And so you're coming off of a year last year where Nebraska couldn't get to 24 points. And so the idea was the offense did enough on Friday for them to have won that game. They absolutely could have played better. I mean, there's no question about that. But I sort of also felt like Illinois did a nice job of taking things away from Nebraska. The reason that they threw for nearly 300 yards is that, again, teams decided, hey, we're going to stack the box. We'll see what Dylan Raiola can do. The more fascinating part of their passing game to me is it felt like Nebraska didn't adjust to much in terms of quick passing or try an extension of the running game with some quick passing. It was a lot of long developing downfield routes. Now they hit on a lot of those. So clearly it was working to a degree. But no, I don't think the offense gets a pass so much as if you were to go through and decide which of the three phases most hurt you, it would be 3 out of 3. I think it'd be sort of hard to argue that.
Schaefer, as we talk about, hey, we would have liked to maybe see a little bit more of the run game and Illinois playing with stack box and stuff like that. How much do we have to consider, okay, Micah Mazuka's not playing, Turner Corcoran gets injured early. Like, are we not talking about the offensive line enough in terms of who was actually able to be out there?
I think in part, no one wants to have that conversation. I mean, you already knew what Turner Corcoran was going to be at left tackle. Like, I don't know that personnel was why Nebraska struggled to run the ball so much on Friday. I don't know that, if you had your exact set 5 that you wanted out there, that you were going to run for an additional 50 yards or whatever it would be.
Wait, so do we think Turner Corcoran's a good player or not? Because I think we go back and forth. What did we settle on today?
I mean, I've been pretty consistent with I don't think he's a left tackle.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I mean, we'll start there. I'll put it this way. Up until overtime, I didn't feel like there was a sizable drop from where Gunnar Gatula was doing things.
I would agree.
So I don't want to sit here and dump on Turner Corcoran. I think he's being asked to do something that for the 5th year in a row that just isn't part of what his skill set really allows to be. But I thought Gunnar Gatula played fine. So to me, it wasn't personnel. There's a lot of people that feel like Micah Mazuka could have really helped Nebraska in that game. And I do think that there's an argument to be made that he's one of their best run blockers. Yet at the same time, I don't know that just having Micah Mazuka means they win that game either. Like I'm not ready to say the personnel was the reason for any offensive line issues or running the ball issues. I just feel like Illinois took it away from Nebraska for the most part, and they didn't adjust with their game plan to how to hit Illinois back to try to take it back. That's more of where I'm at with it than it is straight personnel.
So, Schaefer, excuse me. Maybe there's something to you doing your job versus your personal kind of what that Mike J. Schaefer believes, or maybe they're the same. Is there something about when you listen to either press conferences or explanations where you feel some type of way, whether coaches give credit to the opponent or they focus on what they can do better? Do you have a slant that you gravitate towards, or like your listening ear?
I don't know. That's a good question. That would be a self-analysis that would require me to go through a lot of scenarios. Someone from the outside would have a better job of pegging which direction I go with it than I think I could internally. I mean, I try to match up what I see with my eyes with the explanation that comes with the coaches, with the understanding that across the field, they're trying to win the football game too. They have good players too. They have good coaches too. They are going to put you in positions where you're going to have to respond to it. And sometimes Nebraska's response is going to be good. Sometimes Nebraska's response is going to be bad. And you take all that information and you weigh it up, and, out comes your analysis and what you saw, what you think, everything else. I mean, I don't feel like Nebraska played a particularly good game on Friday. I don't feel like that's symbolic of the team that they were the first few weeks of the season or the team that they could be going forward. I don't think this loss is the sort of thing that has to beat them over and over and over, but I do think there are some long-term questions that come out of it, specifically with, coaching and a few other things, game management. I mean, Nebraska under Matt Rhule, and just using his 2 seasons so far, has been a very bad fourth quarter team. He wants to be a good fourth quarter team. He desperately wants to be a good fourth quarter team. How do they get there? how do you get to that point? Now, they've got a better offense for doing it. Last year, I felt like that was more of their issue than anything else. But we saw, just like against Maryland, just like against Wisconsin, just like against Iowa, the defense didn't get off the field when it has to get off the field. You're up 24-17 in the second half.
Did it seem, excuse me, do you remember thinking to yourself at any point during that game that for 2.5 quarters, Illinois' offense only scored 3 points?
I do. I was the guy in my message board thread trying to calm other people down that were claiming that this was, the 2012 Big Ten championship game. Like, there was a long stretch there where Illinois only scored 3 points. I had Michael Severe on my kind of reaction show on Sunday, and we sort of went back and forth on that. I thought Nebraska controlled a large portion of that game. I mean, if you go back to where that interception is thrown, if you go back to, the defense was able to get off the field right away in the first half, they gave the offense chances to really extend that lead, and they weren't fully able to do it. I don't think the defense played terrible by any means, but they did not play well in the fourth quarter. They could not match up against whatever Illinois. They couldn't adjust to what Illinois was doing. The safeties, I thought, had probably the worst game that we've seen them play in a long time. Eyes were in the backfield when it couldn't be. They got beat on simple play actions. I mean, sometimes it felt like they were all trying to do too much, which is a disease that Nebraska has run into before. Again, I don't think it's the sort of thing that it's going to beat them every week, but you hope that whatever they see on film, they learn from the coaching staff, from the players on down, because you're going to be in these types of games again. I look at Rutgers as a very, very similar game to what they just played with Illinois. How can Nebraska come out on top against Rutgers in 2 weeks is a really big question to me. And I'm not trying to look past Purdue, but I think Nebraska's got a few of these games coming up. How do you keep from losing them? That's where I'm at with it.
Schaefer, this sounds kind of weird because I'm typically not a guy that's going to say, well, if this, I'm not kind of a revisionist guy, but Nebraska was 4-4 in the red zone. They scored 3 touchdowns. And we were talking about points per possession, and analytics guys talk about finishing rate. Do you look at this any differently going forward, warts and all, if they hang on to a 50-50 ball or just hit an open guy like Luke Lindemar? Have you allowed yourself to go there whether you're like, okay, that's 2 things that are pretty controllable without having the conversation of running the ball and the offensive line or defense missing tackles? Does the narrative change for you long term if those 2 outcomes are different?
I don't think so, because I have tried to come from the place of Nebraska didn't play well and yet still had the opportunity to win that game outright.
Okay.
Like that's how I feel. Like,
I understand. That's why I got it. It just gives me perspective on how you thought. So you think that this was much more about Nebraska than it was Illinois?
In the sense that Nebraska didn't adjust to what Illinois was doing. I mean, Illinois did a nice job with their game plan coming into that game. I feel like if they play that game 50 times, Nebraska is going to come out more than half on it. They ended on the wrong side this time. Like, that's why I don't want to make too much of this loss, because I don't think I look at it and see, oh, there's long-term problems brewing here for Nebraska. Yeah. I look at it as they played bad on a Friday night in multiple phases of the game, and still on 3rd and 3, were an outstretched throw away from taking what felt like it could have been a commanding lead in that game, putting their defense back on the field and saying, okay, now finish it. That didn't get to happen. The defense got them to overtime, but then, that very first play of overtime broke the spirit. I mean, I just, when that play happened, I think everyone knew what was going to follow.
Schaefer, do you allow yourself?
That's pretty good.
Do you allow yourself to think at all that the tightness that Coach Rhule talked about played more of a factor in the defensive lapses late than not making adjustments to what Illinois was doing?
You could. I mean, I think that's human nature. They don't have.
And maybe that's the side of the ball that puts more of the onus on them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they're the ones that feel like they're going to go win the game. I mean, you go talk to the defensive players. They're the ones that feel like they're in charge of winning this game for Nebraska before the game starts. I mean, they don't want to allow that many points. They don't want to be in position, where the offense has to chase points or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, there was probably some shaken confidence there from where they thought they were to where they are. But the great thing is they get a week to work on it. They get a Purdue team that gives them a different, unique set of challenges, and you got to move forward. The season didn't end on Friday. It's very, very valuable for those players to hear that. It's valuable for Matt Rhule to take that approach. They were never a complete product. The 3-0 start was nice. They weren't going 12-0. I don't know who needs to hear that. They were not going 12-0. I didn't predict them to be 7-0 in Columbus. There was a lot of, hope and excitement for that, but there was always going to be learning this year, and they're in one of their learning moments. What do they learn? That's what we see coming out of this.
This is a good segment. Not that you don't have good segments, Shay, but I'm kind of almost in lockstep with all 21 of these minutes. But so when you're looking at this deal, I looked at yesterday's presser more as maybe I hear what I want to hear, but I don't think so, because I'm listening to you and you're kind of the same way. I felt encouraged after yesterday, not discouraged, because you kind of want to be operating in the know, don't you? And he appears to want to talk and allow us to be in the know.
Well, what good does it if, it doesn't need full transparency, but just giving short clipped answers that don't really answer the question. There's no value in that for Matt Rhule. We know that he likes to use the media to talk to his team. So if they're paying attention to what he's saying on a Monday press conference, I'm sure there's messages in there as well. They like this team. I don't think they're going to feel like one loss is going to shake their feeling from that. They know that they're better than how they played on Friday. I think that's what hurts. What hurts is that they didn't play well enough in a game that they had an opportunity to really kind of announce, hey, this is who we are. Now they're back to the drawing board. And that's the thing about this season. It's going to be a lot of back to the drawing board. It's how you respond that matters.
That's Mike Schaefer,
I can't wait for
Husker 24/7. Shay.
Good stuff, Shay.
We appreciate it. As always, Trevor Lawrence, still a generational talent. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. It is time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook.
What the?
I don't know. I'm just going to keep rolling. Warhorse, the best place to place your bets in Nebraska. You've got the sportsbook in Lincoln or in Omaha, and they've got you covered with nearly every major sporting event, pretty much no matter how you want to bet. Straight bets, parlays, in-game props. You big props guy?
Props.
I don't feel like you're a big props guy.
No.
Nah.
I was cheering for my man JB last night, though. He had some props going.
He had some props going?
Yeah. And then he was officially out on Burrow.
Ooh, I think
that might have been all he needed.
I like a prop or two. You can get that as well at Warhorse Sportsbook. Go to warhorsecasino.com for a full list of details and house rules. DB.
What do you want now?
Oh, I just thought we might keep talking for a little bit.
More generational stuff?
Lots of talent.
You got Amazing Daniel going?
Man, doesn't take much. He gets going.
Mom,
going.
JB was like, I think he thinks you're trolling us now. Are you just trolling us, not taking that L?
Nah. I just have a really hard time when people can't understand simple logic.
Oh, man, you're so Gilligan on this one, just out on an island.
Like when you say something to distinguish between two different types of football, and people think it's somehow disrespectful because you're talking on live air for 3 hours every day, and maybe you didn't pick the perfect word. But
I want us to play football. We're not here to not play football.
Contextually, you can understand what I meant there.
Yeah.
Contextually,
huh?
When people can't understand logic, it upsets me, and I will die on those hills.
It's physical. It's hard. It's cold.
Yeah.
You ever seen a talented player not be very productive and not end up being very good?
No.
Sure.
You ever seen that happen? Happens a lot, doesn't it?
But again,
no, it happens a lot, doesn't it?
I just don't really want to rehash this nonsense
a lot.
And say no.
But again,
happens a lot.
Once you use the word generational,
that's fine.
I would think that you're implying production somehow.
No, I'm not implying anything.
Well, why not just say that he's talented?
Because he's more talented than a lot of guys that come out of the draft process.
That's not true.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, if you want to go back and go through
you know what,
the
and
draft grades and all of this,
this bet on it segment, I'm gonna bet that not one other person agrees with you.
I'm gonna go back and do all the draft grades. Right? I'm gonna go put Trevor Lawrence. I'm gonna do this because I am that. No, because that's exactly what I'm talking about, though.
Well, can you see?
I can see. Can you see? I can see he's not a very good NFL quarterback. That doesn't mean he wasn't incredibly talented coming out of college.
Yeah, okay.
It wouldn't be the first one that we're like, that didn't work out. I'm not really sure
it'd be
how.
like 2000, which is why I would have been careful using the word generational.
I feel fine about it.
I feel fine.
I really
do. Can you be cross generational?
Lots of that'd be multi-generational.
I thought it was cross pollination.
That's a different thing. That's like when you got
what are you talking about?
Bees
Shane?
And flowers and trying to, pollinate.
How about them apples?
I don't know why we're talking about apples.
Because
I don't even know.
Bees, pollen, apples, it's all the same thing.
No, no, it's not, Shane.
No,
not even a little bit.
No, Shane.
It's really not.
Knock it off.
What'd I do? I didn't do anything.
Can I ask you something about a real game?
Sure, why not?
Before you give your war horse, your war daddy thing.
That's a different guy. He doesn't work here anymore.
So Schwelly is going against Severino tonight.
Okay.
In the ATL.
Your guy Spencer.
Thoughts?
Schwelly versus Severino.
It's must win for the Braves. I mean, clearly must win.
Yeah, they're in it.
And they're giving the ball to my man Spencer for hire.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about Schwelly. I do.
Big Braves guy?
Not necessarily. They just haven't ever I know they had a lot of injuries throughout the year. They never really seemed like they ever clicked, whether healthy, not injuries, whatever. I know some guys are getting back now. I just don't have a ton of confidence in the Braves in general, but I would like to see, the Nebraska kid play well. So, I'll go with the Braves, although I wouldn't put money on that. They're minus money. I wouldn't take that.
Too much.
Yeah, minus 145. That seems like a coin flip to me.
Yeah, I'm torn.
Like Natalie Imbruglia? No?
The other lady, torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool.
I can Google that.
I don't know who sings that.
I don't either.
Something, breaking all the rules. Whatever.
Mary McGregor.
Yeah. I used to hear that on the way to the dentist.
Yeah, I'm more of a Natalie Imbruglia guy.
It's a dentist office song. I want to see Schwelly get the dub, especially in crunch time, because he's a high leverage kind of guy anyway. At least he was at Nebraska every other time he took the bump.
Yeah.
But I don't want the Braves in the playoffs.
Why's that?
I hate the Braves.
Why?
Well, do you not know the postseason history with the Dodgers?
Just being petty now.
Petty?
You seem very hurt right now.
Petty would be like trying to rationalize using the word generation.
Are you Richard or Tom?
That would be petty.
Are you Richard or Tom?
I like, given that scenario of the two, I would prefer to be
take Richard.
Richard.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole Alice in Wonderland video from Tom Petty, that was weird.
Well,
I'd probably rather be good at driving a fast car.
Experimented with some
because I'm afraid of speed.
Mind-altering things, some substances.
Allegedly, Allison.
Allegedly. I don't know. I've never run a drug test on my guy.
Petty?
Yeah.
Tom?
In any of them.
Yeah.
Richard might have been on some PEDs too. We don't know. Unless if Marlboro's count.
I think
PEDs.
all those guys did were like greenies.
Yeah, which is a PED now. You can't take those in baseball anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Not allowed to pop those greenies.
I don't even really know what those do. I should probably.
They're energy. They're basically like meth light. Really? Yeah, no, because they're literally amphetamines, and it's.
So is that different yesterday than when I took 6 B12s?
Yeah, that's a vitamin.
Okay.
Vitamins are a little different, but no, because greenies are just amphetamines. It's literally like meth light, because meth is short for methamphetamine. It's just like a different variation of that chemical. So yeah, I kind of give
you know a lot about drugs.
I know a lot about PEDs.
And I live.
I've been
He's just messing with you.
I've been fascinated with PEDs since I was a kid, so I learned a lot
Doesn't
about
that go together?
What? Yeah, down by the river.
Yeah.
Meth.
Yeah.
Do you want to play the whole clip for him?
And I live in a van down by the river.
I think he's stereotyping a little.
Yeah, that's judgmental. Shane, quit doing that.
So back to the horse segment. You want to get back to betting on generational talents. I think you should bet on whether Trevor Lawrence will get benched.
He probably will at some point this
for
year.
being a generational talent. Because Doug Peterson did promise changes.
He'll probably get benched at some point this year.
Are you buying Antonio Pierce kind of threatening? I assume, allegedly, he was talking about Devontae Adams.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with Antonio Pierce.
Some guys made some business decisions. We'll make business decisions on Monday.
That typically doesn't last long in the NFL. That personality of a head coach doesn't last long in the NFL.
Yeah, kind of like Zimmer talking about Micah Parsons in Dallas.
Yeah, like those guys that kind of pit themselves against players don't last long in the NFL. That's not a long-term path to success.
I think the bet of the day should be who keeps their job longer.
Who?
Between Nick Sirianni and Brian Daboll.
Ooh.
Well, I smell a bet.
I think
you have to take Daboll, don't you?
Keeps his job longer?
Well, they did just get
I actually do think Daboll keeps his job longer because there's still a weird affinity for Daboll's like acumen, and they kind of just blame everything on Daniel Jones.
I think it's called Josh Allen.
For sure. But Josh Allen he's turned the ball over a lot still, but he's shown he's pretty good without him.
Dude, Josh Allen is way good.
No, I know. That's what I mean. And Brian Daboll hadn't been there for a minute, right? I think he gets a pass because they're like, oh, if he could get a real quarterback and then have to deal with Daniel Jones, he'd be fine. But again, pitting yourself against players, Sirianni has sort of pitted himself against Jalen Hurts. That's not going to last long term. So I say Daboll stays around longer than Sirianni.
Wait, how about that division?
Have fun.
By the way, what I'm going to need you to do
You're worst to first.
Maybe.
Oh, I've already looked at Joel. I don't care.
How'd you know what I was going to say?
Because I know.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
What does he know?
The mayor for president.
Or it's fine. Listen, it's not my fault that other people can't understand logic. I do my best, but I'm not an educator. It's why I didn't go to school for that. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Nick Osen. He is a Wisconsin reporter for 24/7 Sports. Nick, how are you this morning?
Guys, I'm doing great. Good morning. Great to be back speaking with you.
Nick, we are glad to be talking to you as well. Let's hop right in. We've got a big matchup for the Badgers against USC this week, coming off of another big matchup against Alabama. Obviously, Alabama game didn't go how Wisconsin wanted it to. What are some things you're looking at that are tangible improvements that they can make in such a short turnaround?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Even though it was obviously a tough game and a loss by a fair margin here in Madison, looking back and when we spoke with Coach Fickell earlier this week, there were some good things. And I think if Tyler Van Dyke doesn't go down so early in that game, it's probably a little closer. So I think one tangible thing I'm really looking at is establishing that run game. I'm sure you guys watched a good amount of that USC-Michigan game. And Michigan was able to really run all over USC. Obviously, that's a really tough matchup for them. But Michigan barely had to throw the ball. Now, I'm not saying that Wisconsin is necessarily Michigan's run game, but I'm looking for a real reliance on the run game and that offensive line. I think number 2 is for Braden Locke at quarterback to play nearly mistake-free football. Now, I don't think he necessarily has a lot of turnovers, but he has struggled with accuracy at times. And I think with the bye week coming off of that, that's a really important thing. And then, of course, getting some pressure on Miller Moss. Now, sacks have not been, an every game type of thing. Like, defensive line is still growing. The Badgers are without their top defensive lineman, but if you give Moss time, he usually can make the throws. If you get some pressure on him, then I think some good things can happen for the defense.
So, Nick, let me ask you something, because Coach Fickle had the announcement was late on Van Dyke. I mean, relatively, and he may have known. You guys may have known it in-house, but when he made the announcement on Van Dyke, I assume that there was at least a little bit of some degree of a quarterback battle. When you looked at Locke filling in for Van Dyke, was that confirmed or denied, or was it just he wasn't expecting to play? Because there was a stretch there where I think I was thinking to myself, was this really a quarterback battle, or did he kind of wait to make the announcement?
I got you. Yeah, I would honestly say that it was a legitimate battle for a while. I mean, in spring ball, there were some days that Braden Locke looked better than Tyler Van Dyke.
Okay,
and I would say, potentially a day, maybe a day and a half early on in fall camp. So I would say at least initially it was a legitimate battle. I can really honestly tell you that. I think the expectation was that Van Dyke would win out, and I think he honestly did with his play and, his big arm, some of his mobility, some of that potential ceiling, right, that you like against some of these big-time opponents. Obviously, Wisconsin has a lot of them. But in terms of just overall play, I would say Locke was right in there, and they liked how he can process the defense and the offense as well.
So let me ask you something, Nick. What's the difference? Because they all kind of do a little something different. And I was a big Ches guy, and I get it coming off injuries. But when you look at their ability to kind of want to get back to running the ball to some degree, how do you separate like Ches and Cade and even Tyree to some degree?
Yeah, so for me, Ches is, kind of your do-it-all type of back. Like, even though he can run in the tackles, outside the tackles, I think you also like him a little bit as a potential pass catcher. I think it has been a little bit maybe slower at times coming off of that injury, but he's had some explosive moments. Like, he had a really, really strong run against Bama. Unfortunately, he got hit in the middle of the field and obviously fumbled the ball, but like running-wise, he looked explosive. I think Giacomelli has actually impressed a lot of people. He's been the most explosive back. He's really good in pass pro. Malusi's pretty good in pass pro. And, Yak can kind of be used as that pass catcher as well. Walker, I think you're looking for physical, smash mouth football. He can get outside a little bit, but he's kind of your between the tackles, take the hits and kind of churn that clock, move the ball that type of way. I'd say those are those top three. I know I mentioned some freshman tailbacks to you guys when we spoke in the summer. I still think you'll see a little more Darian Dupree at some point, but those are the top three that I'd really kind of break down there, guys.
We're talking with Nick Osen. He covers Wisconsin for 24/7 Sports. Nick, is there any part of you, and maybe this terminology isn't quite right, but at least specifically for the USC game, could the injury that to Van Dyke that forces Wisconsin to really rely on the run game be a little bit of a blessing in disguise where they don't really have a choice but to lean into that facet that we know can work against USC?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I would have, potentially said, like, for sure, if I didn't feel like it was already trending a little bit toward that way going into the Alabama game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that obviously you saw more of that once Van Dyke went down and he was throwing the ball like early in that game. But I just got the sense, being at the pressers, obviously watching the previous game and just seeing the trajectory, right, of where the offensive line was going. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the best and really most talented, most experienced lines in the nation. And I think against a really solid, strong, athletic Alabama D-line, I think the Badgers showed that. And Coach Fickle even reiterated that on Monday. So I feel like, yeah, guys, as long as you don't now get away from that too much, I still think that is a potential positive or silver lining, because it's really unfortunate, obviously, what happened with Van Dyke. And with Braden Locke, I think that with his processing ability, maybe a potential positive there is going up tempo. And that was something discussed a little bit yesterday as well. I don't think USC's defense is bad by any means. I think they've taken good steps, but I think that if you can get them out of position a little bit, some good things can happen offensively.
How will you know if it's rest versus rust on this weekend?
In terms of for Wisconsin?
Yeah. Coming off the bye.
Yeah, that's a really good. I think getting off to a fast start obviously is paramount, because we've seen, And we saw USC nearly beat Michigan in Ann Arbor. We saw on national TV how they did a really nice job against LSU. So I think it's simply getting off to a fast start. And I would argue offensively is kind of the most important. So, you got that rest, right, in terms of refueling a little bit. Retooling is what I like to say, kind of keying in on some things over the break. But from what Coach Fickle said, like, these guys got right back at it. They had a normal practice yesterday rather than kind of waiting until a Tuesday. So I don't expect much rust at all. I think it's obviously a decently tough place to play, a good team. I'm a little bit surprised the Badgers are quite as big of underdogs as they are, because I think there are some good matchups that work well within it. But I think if you get down 10-0, 14-0 against a talented offense like USC, that could spell some trouble.
How do you feel like the special teams matches up, having to go against a guy, defensive special teams like Branch?
Yeah, and that's somebody that I'm actually looking to ask about today when we speak to some of the Badgers. Fortunately, special teams has overall been a pretty solid positive for Wisconsin so far. Obviously, you didn't ask about this part of it yet, but, kicking has been good for Wisconsin. So I think that sets them up well. And then just knowing the overall emphasis that the Badgers have had on special teams, adding kind of another position coach type of role there. Of course, knowing that Zach Branch is one of the most explosive players in the nation, I think it's always going to be a challenge. But I think if Wisconsin gets beat, I don't think Branch in that type of role is going to be what does it. Now, obviously, they get him out in space with the rock on offense, and he presents a lot of challenges. But special teams-wise, I think they're going to be ready.
Nick, I'm curious what the general tone is around Madison regarding Luke Fickell early on in his second year here. Obviously, those first two games, even though they were wins, probably didn't look the way a lot of fans wanted them to see. And then Alabama goes the way it does, coming off last year when I think a lot of fans thought they might be better than they ended up being. What have you noticed about the way people are talking about Luke Fickell now?
Yeah, fortunately, I think it's a pretty smart, patient fan base. Now, there are some fans that, of course, maybe expected a stronger start to the year or maybe a closer contest. But I think a lot of these fans realized, quite honestly, that it was going to be a bit of a process. Obviously, you guys know as well as anybody that this Big Ten conference is changing. The talent continues to grow. And I feel like even while there was success in the previous era, and this isn't a shot at anybody, I think recruiting and continuing to build that talent is so important. And maybe that wasn't hit on as much kind of near the end before Fickell came in. So I think while it may take a little bit to see some of those results on the field, I think a lot of these fans understand, we really want wins, of course, and we want to keep this streak alive and this one. But they see some of the potential in the young guys, and they know that explosiveness, that athleticism, things of that nature are really paramount, in this ever-changing conference. I know you guys see it with obviously some 4 or 5 stars coming in out there in Lincoln. And so while I think there's maybe impatience here and there, I think that there's a lot of kind of further understanding and knowing, we want to compete for championships, but this is a 2, 3, 4-year potential type process.
A 12:30 kick for your guys' body clock may not be that big of a deal. Coach Fickell talk much about the travel and when to leave versus, a similar time zone type game.
One thing he was asked about it, guys, and one thing I love and enjoy about Coach Fickell, like many coaches, there's never really an excuse there. He talks about it's a trip. It's a little further. We'll have to leave a little bit earlier, but you still would have to leave early on the East Coast and some of these other trips. And, we just got to plan ahead. And it's really just a process. And I like his focus of we control what we need to control, take care of things on the bye, and then you just really go through things. There's a bit of a recognition. I know somebody asked about it, and he said, some guys might miss, a late class on Friday. That usually isn't an issue in traveling for college football, of course, because it's not going halfway, 2/3 across the country. So it's going to be a little bit different, and it'll certainly be different, guys, for me traveling out there as well.
Nick, we appreciate the time. As always, we'll catch up again soon.
Forward to it, guys. We'll see you later this season as well.
Thanks, Nick.
That's Nick Osen from 24/7 covering Wisconsin. DB and I will be back tomorrow here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.